Okay, so we are chatting to local car builder Tariq Chip Moosa, who snagged a top five honors with his BMW E9 in Kabi at Europe's premier auto exhibition. We were due to speak to him last week, but due to unforeseen reasons, we had to postpone the discussion to today. Tariq, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome. Tariq, assalamu alaikum, can you hear me? Okay, Tariq, you've got to unmute your mic on your side, and then we'll be able to chat to you, inshallah. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. How are you doing? Tariq, can you hear me? You've got to unmute yourself, Tariq. All right. Yes, now we can hear you. So tell us about this competition. I mean, how did it all happen? How did you get to take part?
Okay, so first of all, Jazakallah so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So just to give you guys a bit of a background, this is one of Europe and UK's largest automotive show. It's a show where you can't just take your car, or anyone can't just take your car. You got to get a special invite. So I've been following the UK car scene for a long time. I've made a lot of friends via social media. And when the show came up, myself and the organizers started chatting, and they extended an invite for me to come through. And then we took it a step further for me to actually take a car through to the show. So it was quite a prestigious thing for us.
So did you get to choose which car?
So I've got a YouTube channel called Chicano's Customs, and Shukr Alhamdulillah, I've got a very good following. So I ran a series on my channel where I asked my viewers to help me choose a car to build for the car show. So to be honest, I can't take all the credit. I had a lot of my followers help me select the car. They narrowed it down from about 10 cars to 4 cars. And then eventually we ended up with the E9 BMW.
So the name Inkabi, how did that come about?
That's actually quite an interesting story. My friend and I were busy sitting and having a conversation. So one of the unique things about my business is every car that we build, or most cars that we build, we actually do a custom number plate and we name the car to give the car obviously its own personality. So we were chatting and trying to figure out what do we call the car, because if the car goes to the UK, obviously it being a very rare car, it's a left-hand drive car. We don't want people to mistake it for a car that was built in the UK. So we said we need to give the car a very nice, unique South African name. So because the vehicle is such a rare car and the extent of work that was done to the car, my friend and I were discussing, and he's like, if you take this car to any car show, it normally takes out the competition because of the rarity and how the car was built. And then we were like, okay, take out the competition, meaning the car's a hitman. And then we translated it obviously to Zulu, and that's how we came about with the name. So it's quite an interesting story.
So you've had a passion for building cars since you were young. Now take us through the process, right? Did you buy an old dilapidated E9, or you just had the body or the chassis? What did you actually have to reconstruct?
Okay, so I've been building cars from the age of 16, 22 years in essence. So how this car came about, I actually purchased another car, and the deal fell through. And the problem is I sold two of my cars, so I needed to replace because I've already sold my two cars. And then I was scrolling the internet and I came across the BMW E9. I went to go and see it. I fell in love with the car, had a look at the history. It's a one owner car. I'm currently the second owner. And I just fell in love and I made an offer and purchased the car. So initially, when we built the car, we were only supposed to do a front spoiler, mags, interior, and air suspension. However, upon us actually working on the car, I found a lot of issues with the bodywork and hidden rust. So that
Mm.
resulted in us having to do a full build on the car. And the catch is we needed to do the build in 5 weeks in order to make the shipping date. And the reason why we chose this car is because we thought it had the least amount of work from all the other cars, you know. So it was quite a stressful thing for us.
Well, I've looked at the pictures. I mean, they look splendid. When you actually got to the competition, what did they judge you on in terms of this car that made it win?
I think for me, the main thing that they judged on was, look, every car show, I've attended a lot of car shows. This is my first international car show. So I think they started judging the car before the car actually went to the car show. And the reason why I say that is because from the time that there was hype created on social media that a car is coming from South Africa, people were going crazy. A lot of overseas people were asking, "Is the car really coming?" etc., etc. So the show organizers ran a poll on Instagram where people had to vote if they want to see the car on the podium. Now, to have your car stand on the podium is prestigious. It's like a prestigious thing. They only allow it for 4 cars out of 600 cars, but you got to go through a voting round. So people had to vote from a selection of 2 cars out of 15 cars, if I'm 16 cars, if I'm not mistaken, which car they would like to see on the podium. And Nkabi won every round, minimum score 80%. So that already created a lot of hype, the scarcity of the car. And when the car was there, I mean, I'm not lying to you guys, the amount of people that came and had conversations, the amount of South Africans living in the UK that came specifically to the show just to actually support us was heartwarming. So I think all those factors played a big part in the car winning, you know, and obviously the scarcity of the car and Shukar, the workmanship, etc. So it was quite a special car, and it created a lot of good hype for them at the show. So it was quite
Well,
amazing.
Mubarak, and congratulations. I'm sure this will be the beginning of many greater things for you to come in the future, inshallah. What happens to the car now? Are you going to keep it or sell it?
So everyone's been asking me, and the day I loaded the car on the container, I had a gentleman phone me. He's a serious car collector. And literally, as I'm pulling the car onto the container, he phones a buddy of mine, puts me on the phone, and he makes me a ridiculous offer. And he's persistent. He wants to buy the car on the spot. I mustn't go to the show. I must drop the car straight off by his house. So that's the one offer. When I was in the UK, I received a total of 3 offers where people wanted to buy the car and obviously let me leave the car in the UK. So I can't sell the car. I can't sell the car purely because I have an emotional attachment to it. And also it's a rare car. It's South Africa's car. It's South Africa's champ. So the way the build was structured as well, I got my followers to interact. So I would give 2 options of an interior color choice. And I'd say, guys, okay, which color are we choosing? And then my followers would help me choose a color of interior, color of paint, the wheels, etc., etc. So I feel if I have to sell the car, I'll be doing South Africa an injustice. And one more interesting fact about this car as
Mm.
well, I mentioned it's a one owner. This car has traveled now to 5 countries. So the previous owner was a very famous doctor, and he relocated to various countries. So the car went to Germany, Netherlands. Where else did it go? It went to South Africa. It went to UK, and I can't remember the other country as well. So the car has literally traveled to 5 countries. And to make it even more special, he's a very finicky person. So he serviced and maintained the car at every BMW in each country that the car was. So how do I sell a car like that? It would be impossible to replace it, you know?
Yeah. Well, Tariq, Jazakumullah for your time and all the best,
I
inshallah.
mean, Jazakallah so much for having me, and Jazakallah to the listeners as well.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Well, that was Tariq Moosa. He won that award at the car show internationally for this car that he basically restored here in South Africa. We speak to him this week as part of the community profile. Quick headlines, and then we proceed.
News headlines.